Hey everyone! I just had some new ideas and a new direction that I wanted to share. So basically it's because I went to the local No Kings protest in my small Mass town about 2 days ago. And it was inspiring and gave me a lot of food for thought. It was different than the one I attended in October. Like, people were maybe more disturbed about what's going on, but also like more resolute to do something about it outside of the protest itself. So my partner and I walked home, and afterwards I'm looking on YouTube to see about the coverage for this. Not much on legacy media, but instead I listened to a conversation with two historians I adore, Heather Cox Richardson and Timothy Snyder. And they inspired me to think about what is next for me, for all of us. And I kept thinking about restoring a sense of hope and freedom, but with the question of how do we actually get to a future where we are all free? And I think there are a few things we need to know. We need to know ourselves better and what makes us tick. We need to know what is happening to us with all these controllers basically taking over our government and our way of life. And we need to find real community in person, like reconnect again after the COVID trauma. That will help us get through all the hard times we're living in now and, prepare to figure out how to help each other get to the future that we want. Um, so a lot of experiences lately moved me to revise how I go about creating content for the channel. And I want to start by saying a few things to you here on YouTube right now about how we can start to get our power back and how we get our rights back to the life, the liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is the American dream. And then the future my kids and all the kids deserve. I think we can do better than when we're where we are headed right now. Plus, the people who are controlling and harming us, like we, all of the American people, and it affects people around the globe too. Those controllers, they're counting on three things from us to stay in power. So the first, they're counting on us being afraid of the future. So afraid we'll trade it in for the comfort of a past that never even existed. Let's look at the phrase or motto, "Make America Great Again." And it's a great phrase, in a way. And if that's ever sounded like a good motto to you, I just want to look at some things here. Um, it's not about a freedom future that most of us here in America can enjoy. And let's look at the term great. Whatever that vague description means, the thing that in the motto we are recreating somehow. And I believe some of us have asked a question, and it's a valid one. What does great mean exactly? Because the great in that motto, I believe, is based on a lie about a past that was only great for a select few rich people. And that motto is targeted to people now who are afraid of the future. Because all of these controllers have made everyone convinced that the present is horrible and there's nothing ahead worth building towards, so you stay frozen in time. The second thing they are counting on is us staying stuck in that horrible today. And it's easy if you look at the outrage of the news cycle and the slamming of the news at us, like Bannon says, to slam us, keep us overwhelmed. So there's a crisis every week. The algorithm's feeding this all to us. So we never lift up our heads long enough to even think about the future that they are creating, which is great for them, the rich people here who want all the power, but it's really not so great for the rest of us that live in America and around the globe. So remember too, the algorithm is not neutral. All these social media companies are owned by these rich people. And it's designed to keep us in the present tense, to keep us reactive and consuming and distracted. Then we never quite get to questions of what kind of future do we actually want to create? And really, we are the ones with the numbers and the power to create a future that we want. And that is the truth I want all of us to consider right now. The third thing they're counting on, each of us feeling like we are all alone in this, believing that our freedom is nothing but a personal possession to be guarded and defended. And to each person out there right now, they want you to believe that your sense of personal freedom has nothing to do with the collective freedom of everyone in this country or even around the globe. That is, if you feel okay today, in this moment, even if you're alone in it, that you will ignore the fact that the collective freedom is being taken away by the majority of us, by these controllers trying to concentrate their power. They keep us in an illusion of being alone and afraid by saying someone else is threatening your freedom. Scapegoats. Detract your attention from them. The controllers also tell us that solidarity, being together and celebrating our differences and working as a team, they say that solidarity is weakness. They want groupthink. But solidarity is the only thing that has ever actually worked in populations that resist coercive control takeovers. So here is what I know from my personal experience, which has been a hell of a ride of a life, plus my professional experience of over 27 years helping people endure and survive while going through the hardest moments of their lives. Every person who ever found their way through something that should have destroyed them did it the same way. Not by being stronger than the thing that was trying to control and break and destroy them, but by finding out what they actually believed and what gave them a sense of personal power. So underneath the fear, underneath what they had been told to believe, the distractions, underneath the performance of the mask they're wearing, of who they're supposed to be, they all found their true beliefs and their power and acted from that. That is what is being asked of all of us right now. To find a way to act in the resistance to these controllers who are taking away your freedom, but to act in your own way. Whatever you can do, whatever your talents are, like whatever your capabilities are. We're all different. We have things to bring to the table. It takes a group, it takes a team. You see that in fiction all the time. So it doesn't take superhuman courage or one superhero. It just takes your personal heroism. You finding out how to be the hero in your own story, which is the only story, really, Campbell's monomyth. So, and we need to do it in community, supporting others who are doing the same thing. So for you now, it is the ordinary, extraordinary act of finding out what you actually believe and refusing to pretend otherwise. And then claiming the power you already possess. We all can then work in community to bring about the future that we, the American people, collectively decide that we want. And this has already happened several times in history, American history, world history. Go listen to some great historians for perspective. I highly recommended it. I already mentioned Heather Cox Richardson and Timothy Snyder, because listening to them put things in context has really, really helped. You can examine the past and then you know a better future is possible. The controllers have been beat before. Another thing I'll say, the American dream is about freedom to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Timothy Snyder says, freedom is not freedom from. It is freedom to. Freedom to become who you actually are. Freedom to build something that will stand and will still be standing when your children need it and the next generations do it. And they need our help, and we deserve to leave them a better world than the ones the controllers want to leave them. So finding your power to create a future that is worth the present courage and the cost. Because I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but it will definitely be worth it. So the people at the No Kings protests in cities and small towns around the world, some in the cold and bad weather, with minimal legacy media coverage. So you think, why did we all show up for a protest? And why do we all keep showing up every day, just like little things day to day, to do whatever we can to resist all this? I think it's because there is still something in us that knows what freedom feels like. And we still believe freedom is possible. Freedom too. And we refuse to accept the manufactured nostalgia or the algorithmic present of outrage and distraction. Because that just distracts us from the controllers who are trying to take our rights and freedoms away, and we need to wake up and pay attention and look at it. So let that knowing what freedom is drive you. And remember, in your belief and hope that we can make a better future, like that knowing and that believing, that's not nothing. That is everything. That is the light in the lantern. So knowing is what this channel is built for. Knowledge and community help you find your personal power, and then we find our collective power. So I don't want to do any more lectures. I don't want to make this just an outrage platform. I want it to be about knowledge and community and taking our power back. And that means like you are all involved too. I'm just providing a venue. And the knowledge and experience I've gained and anything I think that might help. And I'm open to feedback. So I picked the symbol of the lantern. And lanterns are meant to be carried by people moving through the dark together. So here's what I am proposing. A multi-spoke venue here in this channel to help us through. So spoke 1. We start an online community here, a place to hold each other while we figure out what's true. We can make comments and have discussions and later have some live sessions where we can all interact. Spoke 2. Then this lantern idea, take that into your communities. I called it Lantern Forward, so it's moving, it's not static. So go connect again in person. Like there are great people who can like set this up and set up the meetings, and others that can help everybody co-regulate and support each other and then figure out what we want. And we can work in small groups. I mean, if you look at superhero fiction, if you look at Stranger Things, like I'm going to do some videos on that. If you look at Lord of the Rings, if you look at all these stories, teams of people are what defeated the big bad. And often the big bad was the monster, and nobody knew who the monster was till the end. So we can do it together. You know, we can use melds of, technology and screens and being together, but it is important to be in person. And this is in the spirit of the Wide Awakes, which was a social group in the 1850s that Heather Cox Richardson and Timothy Snyder talked about. So it was before the Civil War when slavers essentially wanted to enslave the world, and people started by just meeting in a social group, taking their ideas, making things happen outside of that group. And then through, the Civil War, history has its ups and downs, but we did not wind up with the vision that those slavers in the South envisioned at that time. So the people who went to a social group, they found enormous power to change the trajectory of the world history at that time. They did it, and we can learn from them. They were just ordinary people. So it was about people who gathered together to breathe together, to regulate, to think, to act, to feel, to plan, and then go outside of the meeting and come back and compare notes and support each other. So then spoke 3. We'll also look at characters and media stories we already love, which really we have a lot of similarities and differences that causes a lot of stress and miscommunication and all sorts of problems. But it's a way, if we look at media, that we can analyze and look at how we can understand ourselves and how we can understand people who are different. So who we are, how we're built, and how we can work together in teams, work together, not against each other. Spoke 4. We'll learn exactly how the controllers taking our freedom are using cold empathy. That's what psychopaths do. And they use these effective techniques. One is called DARVO. So, and the other is coercive control techniques. So I've done some videos on these, and I'll get into it again in my new format. But they're using this cold empathy, DARVO, coercive control, and they're hoping we stay alone in the dark. So we're going to break that. So more importantly, we're going to learn how to build psychological resistance to what they're doing, which will effectively end their control or attempts to control all of our hearts, minds, and souls. I mean, they know how we all operate and they use it to control us. So it's time we all learned how we operate so we can find out who we really are, what we believe, and find our personal power and take our country back. And you learn how others operate so you can work again, with each other in teams. Because we all have things to bring to the table and good ideas. And we have to stop just fighting about who's right. Have some humility and listen to each other. It is possible, as I said, in history and even fiction. So, I have a lot of experience with people, and I know these theories about how we're different and the same are true. I spent decades sitting with people in the hardest moments of their lives often, and I went through a lot too. And I know what breaks people, and I know what doesn't. I'm here to share everything I learned. That is why I'm here. I'm trying to find meaning and purpose out of all of that awful. So I want you all to know, I see all of you. I see your hopes. I see your fears. And what you think is good and bad about yourself. I mean, that is the universal human experience. We all have that. And you are beautiful in the imperfect human way you are. I believe we're all divine beings. I mean, that might sound kind of woo-woo to you, but really, even if you don't believe that, we're all beings who are seeking meaning and purpose. So, I am sure and confident we'll find our way forward. We'll find it together. So take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.